Welcome back, and this time to my backyard. And I am excited to share with you that I am finally ready to fire up the Curtis Falcon. Now, the Curtis Falcon, if you're new to the channel, has been around for, at least in my shop, for the past about a year and a half now. And she's a big girl. She takes up a sizable amount of real estate in my shop. And the reason that I took her on is because of my love for the Curtis Helldiver. And the Curtis Falcon was originally a reconnaissance airplane that was used as a test bed for the United States military dive bombing program. Early in World War II, pre-World War II. So that is why I love the Curtis Falcon. It is a beautiful airplane. Love Curtis. As you guys know, Curtis, big fanboy. Now, let's go over just a few quick things that I have done to the model to upgrade it. Now, starting here in the rear, I have updated the gun mount here and gun. This is all 3D printed stuff using my SLA printer, and it's just got a lot more detail than the original gun had, and it's a lot more sturdy. The pilot, I upgraded the pilot's head, 3D printed that so it looks a lot better. The last one looked like something out of a horror movie with dolls. It was awful. Couple of things along the way. I've cleaned this airplane top to bottom. I've got a whole video on that. The tires, I replaced all the tires and inner tubes. These are wheelchair tires and wheels. It's pretty interesting. From there, I've also upgraded all of the servos inside, replaced all of them, because as far as I can tell, this model was built originally in the 1980s. Now, I can confidently say that this was built approximately in the 1980s, or at least finished in the early 1990s, because the original servos that were in this, when I pulled it out and the radio system that was in it had the old style Futaba plugs that were like at a right angle. Yeah, old style, and they were tiny, tiny wires. The whole length of the wing. It was something. It was something. So got all of those servos replaced. And then I took it to an event local to me, and then we had an incident. I'll explain what happened there. Crouching down below here, you can see we've got a really nice profile of the wing. It sits nice and flat. But when I took it to the event, I had a wheel come off during takeoff. And the way that this system works, I can explain to you real quick visually here. We've got a nut that has a hole in it with a cotter pin, and the cotter pin just sheared. Okay, the cotter pin sheared off, even though I had a new one. So the cotter pin sheared off, the screw backed out, and obviously it was the other one, just because of the rolling resistance. So once I took off, I didn't want to get any additional momentum behind the airplane, so I immediately set it down. Because of the way that the wheels are dug in like that, the axle dug into the ground and the whole airplane nosed over. And let's see, we got a little scuff on the nose. But the big thing was every last one of these struts broke. Every one of them. They were wood, built per the plans, so I assumed. Upon investigation, when I wanted to go rebuild these struts, the struts were laid over top of the plans, which I got with the plane. Thank you, Adam Drain, for preserving those. And the struts did not line up at all per the plans. Come to find out that the way that I can ascertain based off of building technique, because I'm a builder, the airplane was built per the plans, the fuselage first. Okay, the The wings were not set on the airplane to establish the incidence. And had they done that, the struts for the fuselage would be a different length. So when I went to go rebuild all of these struts, the top wing incidence was just wrong. Okay, so bottom wing was fine, but the top wing was just off because the struts were wrong. So going back through and doing everything, I corrected all of the struts. And what you see here now is a corrected version, and it should fly probably better than before. I don't know. I'm kind of worried, mostly because it's just, an airplane that I love. But yeah, in addition to replacing all of the struts, what had to happen with the change of height and incidence, I had to also shorten the links between the ailerons. So the aileron servo is in the bottom wing, but there's these links that go between the four. Okay, so I had to shorten that by 1 centimeter. And then it was all of these wires. The flying wires and landing wires, had to shorten all of them a lot. And by a lot, I mean less than 1.5 centimeters, but it was enough that what I had to do was break down this joint and heat it up with a little micro torch, pull this steel out of this socket, shorten the steel by 0.5 centimeter at a time, reinstall it, fit it back on the wing, see if I could get it tight, and then move from there. So I don't have the javelins on because the javelins are just sort of like a nice dressing thing. But I am back here because I had also replaced the prop, done some prop testing, and now with everything put back together, I've got fresh air in the tires. I've got a fresh servo on the throttle because I noticed that that was sticking a little bit. And I'm ready to fire this up for the first time. I'm a little out of breath because I'm nervous. I don't know why. I'm not flying. But I love this airplane. So I'm going to start it up for you guys, and we'll talk about what's to come from here. What a sound. What a sound. I love it. I'm so thankful that this airplane just starts right up. And I'm sure it has to do with that Quadra engine still with points on it. And the points are clearly doing pointy things. So what's next with this model? Well, I'm getting it ready for an event at my local airport where we're trying to support aviation in the local area. So I'm going to have it out on display there. Not necessarily going to fly it just because I'm not familiar enough. I've only had 2 flights on this airplane so far, and one of them was a crash. So with that, I want to say that there's one thing more that I want to do with this model before I fly it again. Let me power it back up and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so with the model powered back up, we've got good throw on the elevator. I really like that. And there's also plenty on the rudder. But really my main concern comes down to the ailerons. The ailerons have plenty of down and not a whole lot of up. That I think is good because that should help prevent some adverse yaw, right? So it's like a little bit of mechanical, what's it called? Mechanical differential, right? But I would like to try to get a little more throw out of this. So when I take the airplane inside and take it apart, I'm going to try and get some control horns. I'm going to dig into the bottom wing and figure out what I need to do to get some longer control horns to just get more throw out of those ailerons. So the Curtiss Falcon is basically ready to fly again. I'm ecstatic about this. I love this plane, as I've said many times in this video already. But I'm excited to have it ready to fly, and it's not going to be freezing cold outside. I want to get it through its paces, see how it actually flies in the air, and try to kick the nerves off. This thing flies slow. It's not a speed demon. It wasn't designed to be. It was designed to be a reconnaissance airplane. So with that comes all of the slow reconnaissance kinds of things, right? So down the line, eventually, I would like to try to get some actual signal lights, some navigation lights on the model, and that involves some custom tinkering, shall we say. It'll be interesting, but I can take you along that ride and show you a little bit what I've done historically. It's not complicated, guys. You know me, I go for easy because I'm not a terribly complicated kind of guy. I just try to keep things simple anyway. So with the Falcon back in my flying, I have to tell you guys also with the transition to the new radio, I had to transfer all of the programming manually for all of my models. And so this is part of that test. Safety checks. You guys got to go through and do your safety checks, particularly with a really big bird like this. Take your time, make sure that everything is as perfectly safe as you possibly can, and you'll set yourself up for success on every single flight. Head on over to Dubro.com. I've used a lot of Dubro parts in this. The landing gear straps, the metal landing gear straps, I've used some of those. Metal clevises, silver solder. Old Dubro used to have silver solder. I got some. Anyway, so silver solder is part of this. If you want to see that, happy to show you guys how to do some silver soldering. And I got to tell you, you guys are some of the best channel followers I've ever seen. You give me some amazing technical advice, stuff I don't know about. You give me suggestions, feedback, things I can do better. And I read every single one of them. And I try to interact with you guys when it's something meaningful and constructive. So thank you. I appreciate that. Until next time, guys, I'm going to get this flying work of art ready to fly.